Hey everybody, it's me again. So the last time we made a circle, we spent 20 minutes to come up with one circle, which I hope helped some people. So what I thought this time we could do is just expand on it a little bit and see what we can build on top of this. So if you remember last time, the way to make a circle is basically we get the distance from any pixel to the center, and based on that distance we use this smooth step function where we say, okay, if the distance is smaller than this value r, then be at 1. If it's larger than this value r minus 2, actually it's the other way around. Okay, so if my value is smaller than r minus 2, then b1. If it's larger than r, then b0, and anywhere in between do that cool little smooth step function, which I have over here. If you remember, so it's 1, and it goes down to 0, and then at 0 for the rest of the distance. So the first thing I would want to do is put this into a function so that we can use this maybe multiple times. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make some space at the top, and now I'm going to say float, because I'm going to return a number, float circle, and I'm going to as an input I'm going to have the UV coordinate, right, because it needs the UV coordinate in order to figure out whether it's in the circle or not. So a UV coordinate, and then I'm going to say, okay, well, what is the radius of the circle that you want? And I'm also gonna expose the width of the blur, the width of the edge. Okay, so I'm gonna call that blur, float blur. Okay, so, and now I'm just gonna take this stuff here, and I'm gonna copy, or I'm gonna cut that out of here, and I'm gonna copy that into my circle function. All right, and so D is my distance, and then R is my radius, which I have over here, so I can, so we're going to pass that into this function, so I can take it out of here. So take that out. And then I have one thing, this blur value here, which I added. So I'm just going to substitute this by blur. So that's that. And then we have to return this value C. Okay, so, and now let's go over here and we make another float C. Mind you, that's not the same thing, right? Because this is inside of the function, so this is a different C than this. And I'm going to say equals circle, and I'm going to pass my UV coordinate into that, and then I'm going to say, okay, give me maybe a slightly bigger circle this time, 0.4. So like whenever it says 0.4, that's the same as 0.4, right? It's like it's just a shorter way of saying that. And then I'm gonna add for my blur value, I don't know, 0.05, let's say. And let's see what that does. All right, so that made a slightly larger circle. It's a little bit blurrier. And so now I have this in a neat little function. Okay, so now the next thing I want to add to this function perhaps is, because right now this only allows me to change the size of the circle but not the position of the circle on the screen, right? It's always at our origin that we recalibrated to be in the center of the screen, if you remember, because originally, if I take this out, originally the origin is at the bottom left of the screen. Okay, but we said, okay, now we want the origin to be in the center of the screen. So what I would like to add is another vector 2 here. So vec2, and call it P for position. And so now I can I want to be able to change the position. And the way to do that is similar to how we did it over here, like I have to transform my UV coordinates, right? I have to transform my UV coordinates so that they kind of map the position that I want the circle to be at to 0, 0, right? And similar to how we did it here, so here we wanted to map the center of the screen, which originally was 0.5, 0.5, or it's actually in the center here, right? 0.5, 0.5. We wanted to map that to 0, 0. Well, we just did that by subtracting 0.5. And by the way, this, no, not that. This 0.5 here, this is similar. This is just shorthand for this. Because basically, like, we are subtracting 0.5 from the x coordinate and from the y coordinate, right? It's just that if you do both for the x and y the same thing, then you can just write it in a shorter way, just like this. Okay, so don't be confused. This is actually a vector 2 in this instance. Similar to over here, how you just add one number, but it kind of converts it to 3 numbers. Anyways, so I have my p here. So similar to how we subtract over here, we can just subtract over here as well. So here I could say minus p. Okay, so that remaps point p to 0. Okay, so now if I do this, it's going to give me an error. Why? Because I didn't add my coordinate over here. So I can add my coordinate over here as well. I call it p here, and now I have to make that p. So vec2 p equals, let's say, vec2. And let's, I don't know, we could push the circle to the right, for instance. So to the right by 0.2, and we push it down a little bit by, I don't know, 0.1. Let's see what that does. All right, so now we have a circle that moved a little bit, right? So now that we have this, we can, and actually I don't have to, I could just take this thing directly and put it in here so that we don't each time have to make an extra variable. All right, so now we have something that starts becoming more interesting, because now we can really easily make other circles, right? So I can take this C here, okay, and I can say, okay, let me make a different circle. Like, let me make a circle that's a lot smaller. It's 0.1, and also it's sharper. Okay, so the edge is sharper. And let me move that circle to the left by 0.5, because we have to kind of, because it's smaller, we have to move it away from this bigger circle so that it doesn't get covered by the bigger circle. Let's also move it up by like 0.2 or whatever. So now if I press enter, it will delete the old circle and make a new circle. And why is that? Well, it's because we just overwrote the C value here, right? So what we have to do is we have to add it in this case. Okay, so now we have 2 circles. Great. So you might ask, okay, what would happen if we subtract? Well, if we subtract, then the circle will just disappear. And the reason why is because over here it was already 0. Right, and if you remember from the first video, 0 is black, 1 is white. Smaller than 0 is still just black, and larger than 1 is still just white. Okay, so because it's already black here, and we subtract the circle, well, you won't see it. But that's only because it's black here. Like if we move this circle, so if I put it back here to plus, if I move this circle inside of the other circle, well, then it will start eating out of the other circle. Okay, so we'll start carving away from the other circle. So let's do that. So let's move this circle to the right again. Let's say, well, let's do this. So if I do minus here, Okay, so now I have a circle with a circle missing. So like now you could see that with this kind of stuff, you can already start like making images, right? So we could make, we could add 2 eyes, for instance. So how would we do that? Okay, so let me see here. So we want to move this down a little bit. Okay, so there's my 1 eye, maybe. Make it a little bit smaller. 0.7. All right, and then I can add another circle here. So I just copy this entire thing. And then instead of 0.1, I do -0.1. No, hang on, I got something wrong here. Let me just take this out for 1 second. I'm a little bit confused. Oh, it's because my big circle is not in the middle. Okay, sorry here. Let me just make things not too hard for myself. So I will just say my big circle should be in the middle. Boom, there. Okay, so now I can move my eyes properly. So I can go put this to the left and put this up. Well, not that far. Also not that far. And maybe a little bit more. Okay, well, whatever. Let's not make it too complicated. And then I can take my other one that is basically the mirror image of this one, so I can put it over there. Okay, so that's one thing that we can do. So now let's say that we wanted to change. We wanted to add colors to this. Okay, it gets a little bit more complicated because color, up till now we've just been working with brightness values, right? And a brightness value can be represented by a float, by a single number. If we want colors, then we need to go back to a float 3, which is a red, green, and a blue. So let's make another variable, call it vec3, call it col for color. And let's see here. Yeah, okay, I'm just gonna initialize it to black. And now I am going to how can I best do this? Let me think about it for 1 second. Well, one thing we can do is we can, like, if the entire shape is one color, then we can just do this whole brightness thing here, and and over here, instead of doing this here, vec3 blah blah blah, we can say color. Okay, and right now if I do it, it would make a black screen. Why? Because this is the color is initialized to black and we're not doing anything with it. But what we could do here is we could say col equals some color. Okay, so let's make some color. Let's make it I don't know, let's make it purple. Okay, so we have purple would be 1 for the red, 0 for the green, and 1 for the blue. So because purple is red and blue mixed together, right? So now we have a full purple screen. Okay, but now what we can do is we can multiply that by the C value here. And what does that do? Because like if we just go back real quick to our C value, so just our brightness value, basically that's 0 and 1, right? And somewhere in between 0 and 1. But if you have a color and you multiply it by, what happens when you multiply by 1? Well, multiplying by 1 doesn't really affect the value at all, right? So if I go back to my purple screen, if I multiply it by 1, it's still just a purple screen, because something divided by something multiplied by 1 is that something. And if I multiply it by 0, well, then it's black. It's 0 because something multiplied by 0 is always 0. And our mask goes between 0 and 1. So what we can do is we can just multiply it by our mask. And by mask, I mean, by mask, I mean like not just that this actually looks maybe like an actual mask, but the word mask is often used to mask certain values. I mean, like, I can't even really say it any different. But this is a mask, so we could call this mask. Mask and mask. And then it says undefined identifier because we need to change this as well. All right. So it looks like we're making a smiley face. I didn't know that, but now I see it. So let's make it yellow instead of purple. There we go. And then perhaps we also want to give it a smiling face or a smiling mouth. So let's just look at the mouth by itself for a second. So let me just get rid of this. Let me go back. Or let's make another value, call it mouth. Okay, and because the way we could make a smiling mouth out of two circles is we could have one circle and then subtract another circle that's slightly offset to kind of make the crescent of the mouth, right? So so what I could do here is I'll just copy one of these guys here. Let's copy the big one. Equals. Control V, and let me just look at the mouth by itself. So I go here, vec3 mouth. Yeah, all right. So let's make the first circle a little bit smaller and also sharper. So just our sharpness value here, and then I make it a bit smaller. Maybe that's a bit too small. Go here. And now I'm gonna want to have just a crescent of this to make a smiling mouth. So what I could do is I could take this thing here and I could subtract another circle out of it by taking this value here, and then so again, right, when it says vec2 0 here, that means the same as 0, 0. And I'm going to subtract another circle out of it that is shifted up by just a tiny little bit. So now let's see what that gives us. And that gives us something that is a smiling mouth. That's great. And so I can subtract it here because because my original circle is either 1 or it's 0, and if it's 1 and I subtract 1, then it becomes 0, right? In either way, I think to do it is by multiplying it, because by multiplying it, you could do, in a sense, the same thing. No, hang on a second. No, multiply is going to give me the intersection. Actually, forget about that. We can't do it, because multiply is now it's only going to be 1 where both circles overlap. It's going to show you the overlap between the two circles. So in this case, we can't have the overlap because we want this crescent. So now we have our mouth, and now let's go back to where we were before. So we have this. So we have our mask that is kind of this shape, and then we have we multiply by a color. What we can do here is we can take the mask and subtract the mouth. Right, so that is how we would blend in the mouth. And some other stuff happened, and the reason why that happened, he looks kind of funny though. That's interesting. Why did that happen? Yeah, okay. So, but it's kind of interesting how his demeanor changes. Maybe I'll leave it like this. But just to make sure that you understand why the eye changed, why the eyes changed as well, right? If I go here, the eyes are like round, and now they're kind of more smiley, or more, I don't know, friendly looking. The reason why that is because when we subtract two circles from each other, then here, let me just go, well actually here, let me use OneNote and show you. So that was our smooth step from last time. Let me see if I can, how do I quickly get rid of this? Okay, okay, there we go. All right, so if we have a circle, so we had one circle, and then we wanted to subtract another circle, right? Like we want to subtract this circle from that. What happens is that, like, so on our first, like the red circle was our first circle, right? So this circle is our first circle, and then the black one is the second one. So inside of here, after the first circle, this is 1, right? All inside of here, like it's 1. And if you subtract 1, well, great, then you get 0. That's exactly what we wanted. But outside of the first circle, it was already 0, and we're subtracting 1. So now this is acted. So this goes to 0 over here, but outside of here, it goes to -1. And the reason why we didn't see that is because, like, you cannot see -1. Like 0 is black, and -1 is also black, and -1,000,000 is also black, right? So we didn't see it, but if we have -1 now here in our mask, and we go back to where we were, so our mouth mask is not just 0 and 1, it's also -1 in certain places, and that's what affects the rest of the image here. But you know what, I like it, so let's just keep it like this. So that was my second video. I hope you like it.